So I was going through the comments of one of my competitors. When I say competitors, I mean like other people in similar fields that do content on psychology, neuroscience, or other companies that make courses on brain training, mental coaching, things of that nature. So that's what I mean when I say competitors. Now, there's this thing in the world that people say, I'm my only competition or you're your only competition, which I understand where they're coming from. They're talking about like saying you have to get through yourself first because you're the one who has to go through every day, overcome every obstacle by yourself. So it makes sense to say you're your competition, but I wouldn't say you're your only competition. That's kind of a disingenuous argument, right? Because if you're your only competition, then why do we apply for jobs, right? Because you go through this whole process to sit in front of someone or at first fill out an application, then they even screen your qualifications and credentials. And then when you get the interview, if you get the interview, you have to sit in front of them and explain why you're the best person for this job. So why do we do that if we're our only competition? What's the interview for? To see what the other people that are applying for the job and see if you're more qualified or a better fit for the company. Also, why do we try out for sports teams? I work in the sports world as well. If you're just the only competition, everyone makes a team, but that's not true. Or even dating, like it can go even to that standpoint. Why do you date? To see if this person is the person you want to be with. If you were your only competition every day, you got the girl or you got the guy. Now is it live happily ever after? But it doesn't work like that. And that's why I get why people say it. I get it. It's about being confident and proud and being able to face your adversity, face your fears, face your troubles, and just overcome them because you're the only one standing in between doing it, executing it, or not. So that's where it makes sense. But when we go to the point where we just ignore that there's other people trying to do what we do, get what we get, be what we are or want to be, you got to take that into consideration. So going back to my point, when I said I was looking through the comments or looking at my other competitors, I got to see what are they doing? Are they doing the things I'm doing? Not to say I need to copy them or vice versa. Are they copying me? But there is a best practices when you're in any industry or any field. So you need to know what everyone else is doing. Just look at how we do with our daily choices, where it's food choices, fashion, the car we drive. It's usually based off of looking at what everyone else is doing. Not saying you just follow the crowd, but there is social influence. And that's why I say it's kind of lying to yourself when you're acting like the world doesn't influence you. It does. And that's not a bad thing because there's so many things in the world that can influence us, some better than others, some more productive. But we got to get out of this mindset that it's just that no one else matters, because I see the buzz term of the decade is narcissists or narcissism, right? So to look at people who are like, oh, this person's narcissist, so full of themselves, I think it's kind of being full of yourself when you think there's no one else that's going to phase you in your endeavors. Now, on the other side of that, I said they shouldn't let you stop your endeavors. They shouldn't take you off your path. That's what I would argue. But we need to consider that, because if I want Mind Body One to become the company it needs to be, I got to understand, am I doing the things that are productive to my industry, to my business? Because sometimes there are other people that are doing things better in a certain field. Because I've had people tell me, oh, they're not your competition because you do slightly different things. I'm like, yes, they are, because I guess the real end goal would be is whoever's benefiting from it is going to be the one that dictates who's your competition. So if I have a company that their target market is sharing their posts, and it's my target market as well, or they're commenting on their posts or their YouTube videos, or they're buying their courses, their products, their services, that's effectively my competition. And it doesn't mean I have to have some disdain towards them. I think that's where people get confused. They think that you have to not like them because you're competition. Just going back to like the sport example, I can play against someone, and I've done it in my athletic career, and I've seen it with my current athletic clients who are at the highest levels, especially with my MMA clients. They're in there beating each other up, sometimes 3 rounds, sometimes 5, depending on the level. And afterwards, they shake hands. That's sportsmanship. But beyond sportsmanship, that's healthy competition, because your job, that's great athletic identity, not being in the point where you have to hate them. Unless they said some really messed up stuff, you don't have to hate them. Now, in your head, you can be like, I got to destroy them. I get that. I've been there. I've done it. But I have no animosity towards them. It just means that they have a common goal. They're trying to win this fight, win this game, strike me out, block my shot, whatever it is. And it's the same thing when I'm talking about my business. They're trying to get my clients to spend money. You can argue, well, there's more people in the market share. You're right. But you got to see what part of that market that you actually have a hold on. So it's not saying that other people can't still buy your stuff or other people can't see your benefits, whether it's a job application or whatever it may be, dating. But you got to understand, what is the competition doing? So if we use it with job applications, if you're going into a field that requires at least a bachelor's and you get that bachelor's, right? But most of the applicants, you find out they did an internship over a year in that field. When you want to say, I didn't get the job, so let me level the playing field a little bit and make myself more attractive to this potential job that I want to get. Wouldn't it be naive to say, no, they just should take me as I am? And you see where I go with this. This kind of bleeds over to other aspects. Say the same thing with dating. If you notice that most people are doing these type of things, they're attracting a mate, they're getting married, but you don't like them, cool, do your thing. That's fine. But what is the competition doing? If the competition is winning the games, wouldn't it be smart to say, let me see if I should do some of that? Doesn't mean you do all of it, but do what makes sense. And I think that's the problem with this mindset of, I have no competition, or I'm my only competition. Yes, you are competition to yourself because you talk to yourself more than anyone. You see yourself more than anyone. So you have interactions with self more than anything. So it's logical to be like, let me build that up. Let me make that person stronger. I need to prove to myself that I can do it. But after you do that, you still gotta look at the whole world around you. And we live in a pretty big world now because obviously population-wise it's bigger, but due to technology, social media, and other things in society, we're more connected than we've ever been. Therefore, it's harder. Once upon a time, if you just lived in your town, your competition was only relegated to about 300 to 1,000 people. Now there's people in another country that come here and be your competition. There's people in another state, city, wherever it is, that can become your competition instantly. So you got to look into these things, because at the end of the day, when you become a peak performer in whatever field it is, this is probably one of the biggest things you got to admit to yourself, that you aren't always the best. You can learn more. That person who's trying to give you help may be the one to listen to. Even if it's a person you're not the most fond of personally, whether it's like a coworker or a classmate or a teammate, they might have what you need, and you see them as competition. Cool. Like I said, healthy competition is good. You don't think the greatest athletes looked at the other people they were going against? That'd be very, like I said, that'd be very naive to think they weren't watching film, they weren't studying their mannerisms, whatever it may be. So that is definitely a part of competition. So not to know your competition is not a wise move, I would personally say. And that's why I will be in comments. And it's not like an obsessive, like what they're saying. It's more so, oh, I see they facilitated it this way. Maybe I could take that in consideration when I do my stuff. Even how I've been doing some of my content lately, I've gathered some of that from other people who create in similar fields. And I'm like, okay, I can borrow from that, because if it's working, right, why reinvent the wheel? I'm a very creative person, but it sometimes needs someone else's outlook, and that's how you become better. And that can even go to like deliberate practice, the work done by Anders Ericsson, who talked about what it takes to be an elite level performer in your chosen field. And one of it is getting criticism so you can reshape and rebuild, because you can't become the best at anything if you're not getting feedback. And the best feedback comes from objective eyes outside looking in. So if I can get that from someone else, even if it's my competition, I would argue your competition gives you more honest feedback, because they're going to show you what needs to be done, because they don't really necessarily care about what happens to you. A friend, even a coach, might skew a little bit because of bias. We're not saying they can't help you, but that competitive feedback, that's what I'm calling it, competitive feedback, that's what's going to get you. So take this in consideration now. Next time you think about, oh, I have no competition or my only competition, I know what you mean at surface level, but make sure it's not going deeper to the fact that you need to take criticism, have outside eyes or outside forces influencing you in a positive and productive way to make you better so you can get your mind right. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a great day.